Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our new guest, Jared Luján. We're here to break down MEZO Volume 3, The Trial of Roden, a 5-issue mini. Is it a mini-series?
It is a mini-series as of now, right? MEZO is done. MEZO has 2 previous volumes right now, but they're done as mini-series. A bit at a time. So I'm hoping, I know Tyler wants to do more, so hopefully this one does a good round, everybody likes it, and you pay attention to keeping it geekly and you purchase this or pre-order it, or I can convince you tonight, then that would be awesome.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, right here is the link to go over to Previews World to get that pre-order in, add it to your poll list. And of course, if you can't afford it, put it on Twitter and Facebook. Word of mouth is 100% free and it costs nothing to share. So Jared, you are a prolific creator, 2019 Mad Cave Studios Talent Search winner, member of the 2022 DC Comics Milestone Initiative, and a slew of titles that I've seen you kickstart. I think I read a bio that you have up to 4 now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I've done 4 Kickstarter campaigns. 3 for one-shots. I did 2 issues of the Twin Blades. They're 2 separate stories set in the same Magic Mexican Swords universe. And then I had All the Devils Are Here, which we then published in Diamond as well. And then I've just completed fulfillment on my last one, which was Southbound, which is going to be my first mini-series that I'm going to do all through Kickstarter.
Wow. So where did this all begin for you? I mean, you have an impressive resume with creating comics. So like, how did you first start?
So it was, I knew like at a pretty young age that I wanted to be a writer. I want to say that I was like 16, 17 when I kind of had that realization that that's what I wanted. And I spent a lot of years through college and everything. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to write. Like I'm a really big history fan, but I didn't want to do journalism and I didn't want to do history in college. Like I love history, but I'm kind of like, I want to learn and do specifically my interests, and that's not what my college really offered. And so I did philosophy, and I love philosophy. Philosophy is maybe the only thing I love more than comics. And it really speaks to me. And I have like books that are really dense that I read as like comfort books, right? And they're just like the nerdiest things. And so I studied that. I wanted to write philosophy. I realized that I have no original thoughts. I just really like other people's ideas in philosophy. So I was like, cool. So I'm going to write fiction. And I tried a bunch of different things, and I didn't really like them. But I found, I was reading comics in middle school. I started with manga. I'm actually like an inverted. I didn't go from Western comics to manga. I went from manga into Western comics. And so I gave comics a chance. I commissioned my first artist to do the pages and the colorist and the letters and all of that stuff. And I really just fell in love with the process. And I loved the work. And sometimes it's frustrating and sometimes it's really, really stressful. But there's just nothing that beats the finished product, right? Your brain was the baseline. And you built something rather incredible out of it. It's very cool, and there's no feeling quite like it. So, I just leaned into that. I'm very lucky in that I have a really strong community around me. I'm very, very, very lucky man for that, and they have helped me towards my goals. We've all helped each other towards our goals, and I've been fortunate to see quite a bit of success in the indie side of comics, and I'm very grateful for all of that.
Before I ask my next question, I do want to just kind of tack on to what you just said. I have seen you do so much in the indie community. There was a creator that was having shipping issues with their campaign, and you like came in and you like helmed it, and I'm like, dude, this dude is like, out of like, when you think of people really kind of like champion a lot of the indie creators, like, you're definitely a name that comes across my mind.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think what people need to to understand, like, number one, right? That creator was a creator by the name of Kara Huzet. She does a book called Sparrow, and Sparrow was a book that had ran into some problems, right? And Kara ran into an incident. So I'm not going to put Kara's business out here, but she ran into some incidents with a landlord and had to move. She made a decision to use the Kickstarter money that she had raised for Sparrow so that she could keep a roof over her kids and her partner's head. And you know, we were talking about kids. I adopted my kid when she was 16, right? So I've only had her for a couple of years, but it does change your perception of things. And I'll never forget, like, right, Twitter was doing its Twitter thing and being mad at her about it. And someone said, I don't care if me and my kids were going to be homeless. I would never touch into Kickstarter money.
That's fucking crazy.
That's the craziest thing anybody would ever say. And
fuck
so the
those
second
kids.
they're crazy, right? So the second I heard that, I was like, no, we're going to get this book done. We're going to get it fulfilled. And we're going to tell these people to go fuck themselves, right? Because, like, that's such a crazy thing to say. And we got the book again, right? The community, I reached out to people in the community for help. We had a lot of people like Jonathan Hedrick, who's another indie writer who's very talented. J. Michael Donahue, I think. Krista Heriter, Eddie Klinker. We had a bunch of people in the scene that reached out and gave me money because we had to pay for printing and shipping all out of pocket. And so they together pitched in enough to where I was able to cover the rest, right? We were able to make it work without, my wife being mad that the first time that I made a profit on a Kickstarter book, I put it into a different person's Kickstarter. But so we were able to, like, really kind of get that book fulfilled so that Kara could not just have the book done and not have to worry about it, but so that she could get, because Kara's so talented, she's so good. And so she can get her story out and show people what she can do when the money isn't the burden, when money isn't the hurdle to her getting through it. That girl's like 20 something years old, bro. She's like 23.
That's wild.
Yeah, and like, again, right? This is me showing that I'm an old man, right? I was like 30, and I'm like, yeah, dude. When I was 23, I don't even know. I don't even want to think about the things I would have done to keep my wife and my kids, out from being homeless. So, and now Kara is a part of the Dauntless and BOB merger. She is going to put out her book, it's a Valorverse. It's her whole universe that starts with Sparrow. Sparrow was the first character from that, and now she's going to be able to explore her whole wide idea. And I think that's pretty fucking cool. Like, I think to come around from all of that, that's pretty sweet. I dig it very hard. She's great, and Kara was always ready there to do the work that she needed to do when we were doing the fulfillment. Right, like, she really did do her part. She really did what she could, and you could tell that she wanted to. So yeah, man, I could talk about Kara and Sparrow this entire time. I'm so psyched about both of them.
So did you say 30 was old? Because I'm 34, so we need to backpedal a little bit.
I turned 32 and I stand up sometimes and I'm like I can feel it coming, bro.
It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. Now, to go back to the pin, you mentioned manga was your first entry, and then you moved on to comics. Why did you create comics first? Why didn't you go with the manga route?
Like, why didn't I write for manga?
Yeah.
I always think that's a tricky thing to do, because manga for me feels very like drawing and writing. Like, it's a writer-artist occupation. And the way that they keep it, cheap and on the lower end of thing and accessible is that there's so little, like, additional people. Like, there's not a writer, artist, colorist, letterer. There's a writer, and then I know some of them have, like, background artists for the big ones. And I don't know how to draw, and I straight up don't want to learn. I think I've spent a lot of years of my life trying to get good at writing, and I feel like I'm finally starting to get to the point where I feel like I am. So I don't want to learn another skill where I have to feel like shit about myself when I start. So no, I'm good. I would much rather, and I really do like the collaborative nature of it, right? I really do have a lot of fun working with artists and getting there. I always think that working with artists, it freshens up the story, especially if you're really somebody who pays attention, right? If you really figure out what your artist likes to draw and what they really like to go in on and what their style is and how they tell stories in their art, that's when you can really hit a rhythm and kind of make something that's like really cool. And so I think writing comics in Western comics, I think is just better fitted to what I like, my style of creating things, and I generally think that like my sense of humor and my sense of storytelling would be more popular in Western comics than I think it would be in manga.
No, absolutely. We have some hype over on YouTube. We have C. Solis saying, hell yeah, philosophy. Patrick Raider saying, let's freaking go. We have Lewis Berry dropping a hey in chat. And then Alex Blanton saying, my dude, Cody. Thank you all for joining us. Welcome to the stream once again. We're here to promote an awesome book coming up from Jared, co-creation called MEZO. Right there is the link to get that on your poll list. Get that pre-ordered. If you can't pre-order, put this on Facebook and Twitter. And speaking of that, is this your first time kind of doing a co-writer like creation, or have you done that previously before?
So I've never co-written anything. This is my first time, and I think it's been different from most people's experience, but I've really dug it. I know like Tim Daniel and DB Andre do a lot of co-writing. And I know I kind of have like a little, like I've heard talking to DB about like how they do it and what their style is. And I was kind of brought in a little bit late in MEZO's like scripting because Tyler and I, well, let me back that up. Tyler's the publisher, also runs the publisher Wave Blue World. Who we just put, and look at this, I got a prop ready to go, boosh, right? So, Away Blue World, I published this book, Crash and Troy, through Away Blue World, and Crash and Troy got a lot of critical acclaim. It got nominated for a Ringo Award, and so we flew out to Baltimore for Baltimore Comic-Con where they give the Ringo Award, and I got to sit down and talk to Tyler and kind of meet for the first time, and then we kind of circled back around after that, where he was like, you know, I'd really like it if you think about joining MEZO. This is what we have so far, and he sent me the first 2 volumes digitally so that I could read them and see if it was something that I would be into. And I loved it, right? Like I told him like I've got to read it first, you know, and to see what I feel about it. And it's just like the coolest book. It is a very it's very, very up my alley. So I came in and Tyler already had 2 or 3 scripts written. So what I did in the first couple of issues was a lot of mostly just dialogue changing and editing there. And then we plotted out. Right now, we're currently plotting out the last issue together. But so we kind of went from almost like an editor. Each one of us has sort of been the editor, and then reversed has been our co-writing experience. But I think that's been really cool. I think we work pretty well together. I think Tyler has done such cool stuff in the other 2 volumes of MEZO that I'm pretty psyched that he thought I could make it better. You know. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really big compliment. And so, yeah, it was a good experience. I liked it. I'm very likely co-writing a couple of projects with some friends that we're going to be pitching out probably later this summer.
Ooh, okay. All right. So we always love hearing about the upcoming projects. Just to give you a heads up, I did end up dropping frames. So right now I'm just waiting to see if it's going to greenlit. It is boosting back up. So what we'll do is I'll have a video come out not too long from now where it'll be edited, it'll be fluid, so that way we can promote that as well. So just a few more seconds to see if it's going to kick out, and if not, I'm going to stop the stream and just keep the recording going. But how's your evening going? You just got off work?
Yeah, well, I worked until 5, and then I came home and I had to get I had to get another project started because like I was mentioning, we're gearing up for a couple of pitches. So, and I'm behind on like everything I have to do. So it's been a lot of spinning plates. Because I was this was my catch up week, and then my catch up week got fucked up. So now
God,
it's
dude, I
just my
feel
despair.
that. I
Yeah,
feel
right,
that.
right.
You know, I like we were mentioned earlier. I work when I don't have my kids, and that just so happens when I interview too. I really don't interview when I have them. I'll either do it like when they're at school or if they're when they're sleeping. So like at nine at night. And like today, I was just praying. I'm like, well, I hope it doesn't get too busy. Well, I hope it does, so I can make money. But then I also hope it dies down enough for me to get off in time to prep for this. And I got off like surprisingly like right at 5 too. It's funny how that works. It must be the pizza thing, you know, slinging the dough.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, it was a fantastic time. I think we are officially back though. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm gonna refresh restream just to make sure. I gotta get that figured out. That's so weird. Like it goes good and then it drops down and then it picks back up. It doesn't make sense. But if I knew, I guess I'd be working IT and not slinging pizza. So
I feel that.
All right, let's begin in 3, 2, 1. So what's it like picking up the co-creation, position, like taking a pre-existing IP and kind of crafting your own story within that? Is that challenging for you, or do you feel like it kind of comes natural?
Yeah, I think that I'm a really good collaborator, right? Like there's very few times where I feel really, really push, like even with editors, because at the end of the day, what I want is that I want this to be the best that it can be. And I'm trusting someone that you also want that, and you're going to put in your heart, like I put in my heart. And so I think like in that way, I'm a really good co-writer, right? It's something that I enjoy. I like talking story with people generally. I like telling people which characters I specifically have big things for, because that's kind of how all story works, right? Is which characters do you like and what are they going to do, and then the good news about it, right? But the flip side of that, right, is that Tyler and I have completely opposite storytelling styles. And MEZO is so different from anything that I've written. And so I was really psyched that I kind of had 1 or 2 issues where he had already built up the bones of it. And I got to kind of add the meat where I wanted to, because it's really difficult for me to like keep track of how all these characters have so much going on. And it's not like I'm not saying like Tyler's a good writer, or like that's what good writers do. But my storytelling style, I think, is a little bit more direct than Tyler's is, right? I really like, here's the car, it's a runaway car, you're in it, you're on it, and now there's a left turn and everything's gone to shit. And or there's like a big emotional revelation, right? But Tyler really is playing chess, I think. And he's planning out these bigger things. And so coming into this particular collaboration, I thought was a little bit tricky at first, but right, like I said, we're kind of discussing and fleshing it out. But like I also, right, like not to gas myself up, but I came in knowing that about myself, right? I know that's my storytelling style.
Yeah.
So it's something that I can adapt to, and it's something that I quite frankly like, because I like MEZO. I'm a big fan of the way of what Tyler's done with MEZO. I want to make it better, and making it better isn't shutting him out. I need to trust that this guy who's already crushed 10, 11 issues can come back and do a badass another volume. I get to come along for the ride. I get to get paid to come along for the ride. So I was like, I really wanted to kind of, with this one in particular, I feel like I took a bit more of a backseat than I would in most, because I knew our styles were so different. But the artist and co-creator of my book, All the Devils Are Here, Matt Harding, he and I are just had a phone call last night about a book that we're probably going to co-write together, or that we want to pitch as co-writers for each other. My Crash and Troy letterer Buddy and I are co-writing a movie that we are I fortunately do have a management team that tries to get my books from comic to TV and film and stuff. And so I got to have a phone call with my manager a couple days ago about Buddy and I doing this movie, and she was into it. So I'm hoping that means that we get to pitch a movie together sometime in the next 6 months. But it's just so it's something that I'm new to, but it's something that I think that I'm well equipped for it. I don't think it's something that's easy. That's a good one, right? That's how I want to say that. I don't think it's easy. I think I'm just well equipped to be in these sort of positions. I think other writers would have much harder times than I specifically have because of my specific personality and collaborative and creation style.
So, real quick, we have Alex saying the artwork looks beautiful from the cover. Yes, the artwork is just that's the cover is exactly how the interiors look. That's one thing that I loved. Very gorgeous. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a tad bit. But give us a little bit about what MEZO is. Like, what is this world that we're exploring?
Oh my God. Okay, so MEZO is it's a Mesoamerican fantasy story. I think is the cleanest way to pitch it. Right. It's a story that a fantasy story inspired by Mesoamerican roots like the Aztecs, the Incas, and the Mayas. And then from there, right? Tyler just builds this in the first 2 volumes. Tyler really built this beautiful world of where you can see the Aztec ziggurats in the background. You can see the kind of armor, and you get to see that's different from what we're used to with Europeanized or European fantasy stories, right? Everybody loves Tolkien, right? But to see this one is so wildly different. It's so vividly different, and I think that's a really cool thing. It's such a unique book. To be super honest with you, I don't think there's anything like it on shelves. I think if you're a fantasy fan, right, you've got to try to pick it up. You've got to try and get the first 2 volumes at least, or at least by the first volume, right, the first trade, and give it a chance, because I really do think MEZO is a very unique series that people are. I think a lot of people are sleeping on it, and I hope that they stop. I hope that we get a lot of people in on MEZO this time around, because I love this book. I think this book is so much fun. And I kind of so I took on just a quick flip back to co-writing. The first issue 5 script I wrote, I really took a big swing with it, and I sent it off, and I was waiting for Tyler to email me back, right? And I was just like, oh shit. And I was like, oh shit, he hates it, right? He thinks that this sucks. And I got an email back a week later that basically said, yeah, it sucked. But not he didn't say that, but he was like, hey, I don't think this works, and this is why, right? And he was right. And as he was writing, I was like, yeah, he's right. It doesn't work. And I was glad, right? But that's what the big swings are for, right? Yeah. You swing, sometimes it's a hit, sometimes you miss and you fall, and that's what it is. But things like that is why, my whole personality and creative style, I'm just like, okay, if you think it's gonna suck, I would rather you tell me than Cody at Keeping It Geekly, who I'm doing an interview with, and he's like, wow, this book is fucking trash. That would not be a good time to learn that,
No, and I think it's interesting that you brought up Tolkien, because a big thing of what I felt, I feel like this kind of relates to that, which is how expansive this world is, how those shots look, just the different people in it, and the designs and their armor is just also intricate. It just feels like there's so much lore within this world that I haven't even got a chance to explore, because I only read the first issue of this volume. How did that end up working? Was there breadcrumbs leading up to your co-writing, where you were going to start, or did you have to come up with the trial of Roden? Was that already pre-established, or?
So yes. So in MEZO, just to give everybody kind of a general, real quick history of MEZO, right? From where we are right now. in the middle, there's a town called Metzalpotec that, like 20 years before MEZO's timeline, there's a solar eclipse and a volcano that destroys the town. And all of these people, our main cast of characters, were there at the collapse of that town.
Is that the rupture?
Really? Yes, that's the rupture. Yes, and so since then, a certain members of Metzalpotec have now become like a religious cult that follow a man called Emperor Vuh. And Vuh is now married to Azalea, who was a slave girl in Metzalpotec. And they are kind of leading a crusade against the people the cities and tribes that did not help them right after Metzalpotec collapsed. So you've got Roden was a really devout soldier to Vuh and the Empire. But in Volume 2, he discovers that 2 of his childhood friends that also survived the rupture were fighting for the other side, and he spared their lives. Unfortunately, that is like a high crime in the Empire because they're non-believers in their god. And so now Roden has to go to defend himself in front of the Empire, in front of their god, Cole. And he has to defend his actions and see if the Empire is going to spare him. And it's a pretty fascinating twist on it. I really do think, because you see so much of like this is such a great spot to really kind of. I approach this with the theme of empire. When you reflect on the empires that we've seen and come across, and the ones that have risen and fallen, and you historically analyze them, right? Like, and philosophically, our relation to those entities, right? Like, is Roden going to see the same loyalty and mercy from his empire that he showed another person? Right? Like, is that something that he was a soldier? He had just gotten a promotion, in fact. So that to me is the most interesting engine of the whole book is can this empire feel the things that humans feel? Can this empire repay loyalty that's already been afforded it? So I thought that was all very interesting. But yeah, so like the trial of Roden was definitely already there, but I think that I'm going to have a whole lot more of a hand in crafting the ending, which I will absolutely take any day of the week. I'm a big ending guy.
I love just how deep some of these themes get in this story. Right off the rip, we had a conversation about being charitable, even to those who would not repay such kindness. And I love how that feels like it's such an ongoing theme within the story. Yeah. And that's it's just so interesting the different ways we can look at it, right? Because in Volume 1, it's that I would argue that's the same theme, except it's is Vuh's army right for not forgiving the tribes that didn't help them? Like, who's really wrong here? Yeah. And then in 2, we see what I think is okay. There's a war out. Both sides are at war with each other already. It's already done. These 2 governing bodies is an empire, this tribe that is now newly formed, are at a collision point. And then we discover that there's a human tie that again breaks the connection that these 2 groups have on each other. And now we get to look at it and the relationship of an empire to its loyal citizen. And so I think that really we've been breaking down that theme maybe into a smaller microscope. And I'm excited, right? Because I think if there is a Volume 4, there's going to be where we have such a huge swing in a different way planned that I think subverts the themes that we've been doing. And that's what makes me so excited. We're doing it's so cool being in this wheelhouse and having like another person to be like, fuck, this is like
this is kind of big brain shit. Like we're kind of writing big brain shit. This rules, you know?
Mm-hmm. So, wow. I just love how excited you are about what's to come in the future, you know, volume and everything. I am curious though, how much of your love for psychology like bleeds into your writing?
So philosophy,
sorry.
yes, I would say that like, I'm always thinking about philosophy in some form,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, and I don't mean that to sound like it's always smart. Sometimes it's really stupid, you know? And so like when I wrote Crash and Troy is a really good example. My MEZO scripts, it's all over my MEZO scripts, right? Like I really think that this is going to be the headiest the headiest series that I've written.
Mm-hmm.
But like with Crash and Troy, right? Crash and Troy is really about masculinity and our responsibilities as men to not to accept change, right? Like change is something that I think male figures and patriarchal figures fight against a lot. And the whole emotional arc of the book is like, hey man, sometimes you have to realize you're the problem. Yeah. And that's hard. I think that's very hard, particularly for men to realize. And it's so healthy for us, right? To do it, to finally do that work, you know? But, and also, right, like Troy, Crash's best friend, Troy is me making fun of the philosophical concept of transhumanism. Transhumanists believe that the future of the species is that we're all going to be data inside of computers. And so I made Troy, they took the human brain and they made it into a software program, and now he uses it to look at cat videos while he's getting dressed in a robot body. Like none of it makes sense, you know, because I don't think the concept itself makes any sense.
Is that a play off what is it, Crash and Burn, like the hacker movie?
No, it was not. It was
do you know what I'm talking about though? Like
I do know what you're talking about. So I've heard cash in something with a T that somebody asked me if it was named after, and I said no. Like I have never seen that show. Oh man, I wish I could remember what it was. But we named Crash is the name of a book called by J.G. Ballard, and it's a lot about the theory of, or not it's a novel about how we relate to technology, right? And so I named the main character Crash, and then I was trying to think of an equally like deep name, and I couldn't come up with one, so I was like, fuck it, Troy. And so I just named it Troy.
I love it. Hey, that's a good story in itself. Real quick, with the previous creative team for MEZO, how did your script writing in collaboration work with like the artist, the letterer, the colorist? Like, because I'm sure you know, the previous writer had maybe a different way of approaching it. So how did that work for you exactly?
So Tyler let me completely re-script issue 4, but it was pretty close to like what he had written. Well, it had like that one really is, I think, a 50-50 issue, right? Like, but so I like took panels and I kind of like took in panels, but that he had written, and I wrote them in my script format. Now, what everybody needs to know about me is that I do not know how any of this shit on Microsoft Word works, okay? Everybody's like, it's easy, just program it. And I go, no, I don't. I have a comic script program that I paid $40 for like 7 years ago. I don't do that shit anymore. I'm elevated now, right? Like they all they wanted was $40, and now it's the easiest thing in the world for me. So I think my scripts are very easy because they're super formatted, right? And I am like a script format like monster. Like I get really mad when I see other people's scripts. So I just prefer, in co-writing, either let me script or let me put the outline and then you type it in the script format that I want, because I'm like, I try not to be, but I think you have to keep in mind, scripts have to be read by like 5 people. And there's so much information that has to be in that shit. And when I think someone scripts like shit, I'm like, wow, I bet you're a pain in the ass to letter for. Like, I bet you're a pain in the ass to color for. And so whenever new writers like send me, and I do this a lot, right? Anytime a new writer sends me like an email or something, like, hey, can you take a look at this? I'm like, sure. The first thing I will always ding them, and you can ask anybody, is I'm like, your script format sucks. Like, it's shameful. This is what you need to do. Like, this is how to better this. And then I do the story stuff. But I'm a script format monster. I will admit, I'm an asshole.
You know, when I took a script writing class with Amy Chu, and it was daunting. We had 4 or 5 weeks to come up with an 8-page script, and I'm like, easy. 8 pages, man. No, it was not. It was definitely a lot of like just sitting there like, okay, like I need to do page breakdowns and then break those down into panels and then break the panels down into like how you format it. And it is a very daunting task, especially if you don't know like what you're doing at all.
Yeah, it's so hard. And I love Amy. I took in the Milestone Initiative, I actually did I think a 6 or an 8 week program with Amy for the Kubert School, and then I've seen her a couple times at cons since. She's great. She's super smart. Loved her class. Her script format rocks. So if you are, if you format your scripts like Amy Chu, you're doing a good job.
Let's go.
Also, Greg Pak, also phenomenal. I only remember because they're friends. And Amy like always tells me I'm going to meet him, but I never do. I love Greg Pak, but his format's also dope as hell. Knows what he's doing. So if you're looking for examples, Amy Chu, Greg Pak, those are good ones. If you don't want to do any of that, you just want it to be easy like me, do Superscript. You can probably still buy it. It's not a recurring fee. It's just like $40 one time.
No, I love that. We have J. Michael Miller coming in over on YouTube. Crash and Troy was such a great book. Just got the MEZO bundle from AWBW the other day. Speaking of that, guys, here is the link. Get this pre-ordered, add it to your poll list, and if you can't afford it, put it on Facebook and Twitter. Word of mouth costs you absolutely nothing. So, Jared, with that being said, for anyone who might be on the fence about pre-ordering this, what would you like to say to them to kind of push them over that hump?
Yeah, I think people are going to see this and they're going to think it's daunting because it's 2 volumes that have already gone on. But one, right, we still have a month to go. So you still have so much time to get caught up. And you're like, Jared, 2 trades, that's a lot of money. It's not, because you can go to Wave Blue World's website, which I believe is awbw.com, and they have a bundle deal where you can
get... That was fast.
Yeah. I've been saying it enough times, right?
Like, it took a few seconds for it to even register. I was like, what?
Yeah, sometimes, at first it trips you up, but after you say it 100 times, you get it. But you can get both trades signed by Tyler. You can get a print and a bookmark, and Tyler will probably remark your volume of MEZO with a little drawing, because Tyler can also draw. He's good at everything. But you can get all of that for $29.99, which is pretty low key. But lastly, right, like, why should you pre-order MEZO? Why should you get into MEZO generally, right? It's a fantastic series. This is fantasy that is completely different visually from pretty much any fantasy series that you've read. I would put that I would put us against anybody, really. I think Val, if you liked A Natural Order from Vault Comics, that just had a huge run. The artist for that book, Val Rodriguez, he's the artist for this one. Val is amazing. And you and I were talking before it came on. There's an opening scene of Empress Azalea walking through
gorgeous.
Some foliage, and it's beautiful. Like, we have Gab Contreras, who is a fantastic colorist. We have such a good team, and I really do think that their work is worth an investment for you to see everything that they've already done, because it's awesome. And I really do think that I'm really excited about the future of MEZO. I'm really excited about the future of Wave Blue World. I think if you're not, if I know that this maybe, Jared's done 2 books with them, like, yeah, sure, but they've also been hitting the ground running on a lot of projects. They've gotten a lot of recognition lately, and from the GLAD Awards, from the Ringo Awards. So I really think that that's worth your time to kind of see what might be a big deal coming soon, right? Like, I really do think that we're building some really cool stuff at A Wave Blue World. And I'm excited. I'm really, really excited for anybody that takes that dive to kind of give it a shot, because I think you're going to find something that is really rich with stories that you're going to want to get into.
I love that. And we had Tyler slide into the DMs with an issue 1 of this current volume. And I threw it out. I was like, hey, would love to get you on the show too. So for everyone who wants to learn more about MEZO, we're going to have Tyler on the show eventually. It's not cemented yet, but eventually. And then we're going to also be talking about awbw.com. I need to see you on like a commercial as like the general, you know what I mean? Like
the first, when I was promoting Crash and Troy, everybody had a hard time saying A Wave Blue World right on the first time they had to say it, and by like the second or third interview I was just nailing it like all the time, no worries. And then after that it was the website. I was like, I got to get down on there. But yeah, I really wanted Tyler to be able to come on tonight, but I did not know if he's got 2 kids and they're young guns, and so I was like, well, we scheduled it on like 2 or 3 days notice. Like, I don't know if he's going to have time, so I just didn't want to bother him. But I am glad. Tyler's awesome. Tyler's a great dude.
Absolutely. We have Wells over on YouTube doing awb.com, and then It's a Mouthful. Hey, it's a good mouthful though. All right. It's if you're going to have a mouthful, you might as well have a good one. I'm excited too. Big shout out to you for coming on with short notice. I mean, most of the creators, like, it's been such a thing where I'm like, hey, I work crazy hours. I have my kids a lot of the time. How you want to do this, and we somehow make it work. These interviews are always a blast, and I love doing them. Thank you so much for finally getting you on. You've been a creator who's just been prolific in the scene, and I'm very grateful we had the opportunity to kind of just dive into who you are and a little bit of your work with MEZO.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. And shout out to Comic Book Yeti. You're wearing the shirt. I gotta shout out Yeti. I love them. I love Matt. I love you,
absolutely,
Matt.
Absolutely. There's always time to keep it ready for the Yeti. I might have just coined a new term that was kind of on the fly. Now, before we end things, Jared, I always love asking 2 questions, and that is a piece of advice and what you're consuming outside of creating. So since, we've talked a lot about script writing, what would you say the single biggest thing you could do to start off on the right foot would be with script? I mean, whether it's formatting or even just starting, what would you say for anyone looking to do it, how they should approach it?
So number 1, every opening scene we need to know about your lighting. Okay. So if it's a night or a daytime scene, a lot of new writers do not put if it's a night or daytime scene, and they got to get their colorist to come back to tell them, or just gamble that they're going to give you what kind of scene you want. 2, number your dialogue. 3, do anything that your letterer says, because and on that note, right? 4, be on time. Like, I'm guilty of I really fucked some deadlines up this year, right? It's been a long year already, but I think that, like, we really, what I really want people to understand is, like, you guys gotta, if you have a letterer who's expecting something, they're scheduled, bro. Like, they're not scheduled to wait. They have set aside the amount of time they need to do your project by the date that you have told them, right? Because just because it's not your main job doesn't mean it's not theirs, bro. Like, it's really, and always hire a professional letterer. Nobody, don't try and do it yourself, man. Like, that's the thing that'll keep me from backing and buying a comic, is if I think the lettering sucks. It's a small but very key detail. So make sure, and it's not small. I don't mean like that. Nobody,
yeah.
Letterers, if you're sharpening your knives, bro, I love all of you. That's not
sharpening their pencils.
Yeah, that's not what I meant. But so make sure that you're writing scripts that are keeping them in mind, and make sure they're clean and organized with the information they need for everybody, right? And figure out if your artist likes reference links or reference images in the script. Some people like links, some people don't. Some people don't like reference at all. I was notoriously told I can Google images myself, and I was like, word up, yeah, like, cool. But I think that's, like, just keep in mind with your scripts that it's not just the artist who's going to have to read them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're writing your scripts, and this will be my 5th and last piece, because I can go on this all night, right? Don't just tell me what your character is doing. Tell me what they're feeling.
Ooh.
Because if I see Captain America is running, right? Then I don't know as an artist or even as an editor or anything. I don't know how if Captain America's got a crisis that I haven't seen on the panel. I don't know if he's just going for a leisure jog. I don't know if he's fucking panicked. I don't know any of these things. People run for a lot of different reasons. So I need you to tell me what he's feeling, because the artist needs to know what they're feeling so they can draw the expression, so you can tell the story, right? Like, remember that it's always about the story. While it is an images thing, while it is like a seeing the thing, we all have small things that we do to express those feelings physically. And even if it's not a key thing that you don't want in the script, your artist and the people after it need to know so they can know how to play it up on the page.
Absolutely. We have Wells. Good lettering is the biggest tell that care was put into the book. I've always been told you won't notice good lettering, but you will absolutely notice bad lettering, like right away.
I've heard that. I don't know. Does the average reader notice good lettering? Like, I don't know. But as somebody who works in comics, right? Like, there's times where I'm like, fuck, that's so good. You know, that's such a clever thing to do. And I say it all the time when I read like Buddy Beaudoin's, my buddy's lettering. Every time he lettered Crash and Troy, and every time I read his lettering, I see some little weird, cool shit he's doing that I really like. But I think I notice good lettering all the time.
So last but not least, Jared, what have you been up to outside of creating? You know, what TV shows, what books, manga that you're reading? You know, what have you been up to?
Man, I read like an hour or two a day. I'm currently reading a book called This Is Marketing by Sean Godkin. Don't buy it. And then I've been reading the Attack on Titan manga. To kind of, I was a big fan of the show, but I haven't seen the final episodes yet. So I'm kind of like reading the manga so that I can then rewatch the show. So I'm excited about that. The manga's been pretty fun. The art was not, I think the art definitely got better as I've read it.
Yeah.
And then, man, I had such a good month in March. I read so many good books. Oh, and then I'm watching the Scream franchise again, for the first time.
I heard the new one's coming out, or was in the works.
I will. Yeah, they've got another one coming out that I'm probably not going to watch, but for personal reasons. But when I have never seen the first. Or I saw the first Scream movie like 20 years ago. If not, it had to be more than that. And I was too young to, it was more than 20 years ago. It scared me, right? Yeah. And I do not personally find horror movies like enthralling, right? Like, I don't think fear is a feeling I like having. But I was told that, the Scream movies, like the whole thing is that they subvert. They're kind of playing and toying with the tropes of the horror movies. And, I watched the first one and I felt thrilled. I didn't feel scared. So that was cool. I liked that. I thought it was also very fun the way it plays with tropes. I thought that was very cool. The second one, I was like, shit, these movies are 20 years old. So I guess spoiler alert, but, I didn't realize that these movies revolve around a girl who kills an entire family in 2 movies, like,
I remember, speaking 20 years ago, when Scary Movie first came out, that was like the dick in the fucking the urinal bathroom, dude. So what a perfect note to end the show on, dick in the toilet urinal.
Yes, perfect.
Everyone, right here is the link to check out this awesome book. This is this is coming out June 5th, if I'm not mistaken.
Shit, I think we're May 1st.
Or May 1st.
Yeah, I think issue 1 is May 1st. We had some big crunch time from our team because some stuff happened that was not related to me. But so shout out Pete Carlson. He's a dog. He got that whole thing lettered in 2 days. So shout out to Pete. It wasn't any. Well, never mind. But shout out Pete. I love you. But yeah, I believe we're gonna hit out. We're coming out May 1st. And it's going to be great, man. I'm so psyched. May is historically a great month for me, so I'm generally pretty excited.
Well, let's go, everyone. There's the link. Be sure to add it to your poll list. And if anything, just share it. Facebook and Twitter. Word of mouth is 100% free. Hope you all have a fantastic Thursday, but most importantly, keep it geekly.